Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Time Rewind podcast. I am your host, Dylan Stoll, and I'm joined as always by my friend, Michael Whifford.
We're going into the unknown.
Into the unknown, as they say in Frozen 2. So, before we jump into our breakdown here of Episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon, we're just going to go through a couple business measures here first. So, as always, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, feel free to reach out to us through email at wheeloftimerewind@gmail.com. Or if you're on social media for Instagram and Twitter, contact us there at WOT Rewind. Tag us, DM us, share our stuff, talk theories. We're game for it all. Jumping from that point here, I'm going to throw it to you, Mike. We have an email to read here.
Woohoo! Our first email. And shout out here to Matthew Scott, and thank you for letting me know that our DMs on our Twitter were not actually open.
Oops.
I had to go in and manually do that. Shows how much I actually use that feature in my own personal Twitter account. But Matthew responded to last week's episode, and this is what he had said. Like the pod, here's my theory about the picture. And now he's referring to the picture or the golden thing on the wall in Moiraine's room in the last episode. It's a picture Siuan painted of Moiraine. Nothing more special than that. However, its relevance is directly tied to the conversation Moiraine just had with Lana, where she mentions how Siuan is Moiraine's enemy in the tower. And that if Moiraine doesn't share her secrets, they're going to leave her as bare as the room. Then she opens up the box and shows the room isn't quite so bare, and by extension she already shares her secrets with Siuan, and no one else knows. It's really just foreshadowing their relationship. I bet we get a flashback about this next episode.
And I just want to say, bravo, man. That was some very good predictions there. The only thing you got wrong was there was no flashback. We basically got an entire episode about this. So, way to go. That was great.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I responded to him, and I asked his thoughts on theories floating around on Facebook and other social media sites that it was tied to the Elfin and the Elfin and the Terran-Griel in the books, that is the ruby red door.
The red doorway, yeah.
Red doorway. I'm thinking Wizard of Oz.
Ruby slippers.
Yeah. And in the books, it's a Terran-Griel. You step through and you're into another world. And in this world, there's these creatures, the Elfin and the Elfin. Elfin.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like an E and then Elfin and then like an A and an Elfin. So it's kind of strange. Like Snake and Foxes, basically.
Snake and Foxes, yes, exactly. And hopefully they'll get referenced in the show.
I hope we see them in the show.
Yeah, obviously that didn't come to pass, but it is important to note last episode that there were the three faces in the rocks, and a lot of people speculate that those are kind of leaning into the Elfin culture. So we'll see about that. But thank you so much, Matthew Scott. It was an excellent letter. We hope to hear from you. And if anyone wants to try the DMs on Twitter, please go ahead and do that. I'm looking forward to actually making sure it works. And if it doesn't, you can send me an email and I'll definitely respond to that.
I know the Instagram DMs work. I have used them before, so we're good there. I run the Instagram, yeah. Mike's on the Twitter and the email.
Not very good at social media.
we'll see. All right, jumping off of our little tangent there. Let's get into this episode. So we start off with young Siuan in Tyr, which is a country in the world of the Wheel of Time here. And
I think one of the fingers of the dragon, actually. It looks like she's on one of the
fingers of the dragon. She looks like her father and her. There's like this little like delta area at the bottom of Tyr that leads from like this river into the Arth Ocean, and it's called the Fingers of the Dragon. Because of, the Dragon Reborn and the dragon in the past, Lutheran, they just name lots of things. The something of the dragon. Kind of like Dragon Mount. All kinds of stuff like that in this world. But anyways, we have Tyr, which in this area here, Siuan and her father are fishermen. And you see some of the fish language that Siuan is famous for in the books come out. Where there's no fish guts, but there are like some bastard swears, and also just talking about how you got to be clever as a pike and all kinds of stuff like that. So we see that Siuan's father has only one hand, And there's no explanation given for that, but maybe it was like chopped off for thievery earlier was my kind of thought on that. Who
I
knows?
mean, it could be
But
from anything. Fishing is, dangerous industry. You're working with a lot of sharp items, knives, and also like silver pike and other fish are
yeah,
dangerous. So.
dangerous animals. But they're out in the water fishing and everything, and then Swan uses the one power to untangle the knots and help her father. And then that was kind of cool. But what I want to talk
Super
about,
talented.
yeah, I want to talk about how it like showed her like talent at a young age, and her dad's like, "Oh, you're getting better. Like last week, you couldn't even untie a knot, and now here she is, just like quickly going and doing her thing." But he cautions her to not use the one power so close to shore, because in Tyr, the use of the one power is actually illegal. So, like, if they know you can channel, they'll allow Aes Sedai to come in, but they have to swear not to use the one power while they're there. But if you're a kid who shows the spark and can start to channel, they immediately ship you out of town that same day and send you to the tower.
Mm-hmm. So it was a really nice nod to the culture there in Tyr and how they feel about it. And then it leads very nicely into the next scene where they get home and, oh wait.
There's no home anymore.
Nope, and we got the Fang of the Dragon.
Yeah, you got the dragon's fang carved onto the door, or burned onto a part of their house anyway. And so, like, in the book series, people, if they want to, like, call you out for being, like, evil or something like that, yeah, they'll, like, carve the dragon's fang into your door, or like, burn it onto your house in this point here. And they did a little more than that, and now, unfortunately, Swan's dad isn't going to have a fishing boat anymore because he's sending Swan off to the White Tower on that. He's not going to have a home anymore. And unfortunately, in this world, I don't think after Swan left for the White Tower, her father was able to survive too much longer. And I think she knew that as she was leaving. But you see her dad give her, like, a couple nicknames here. He's like, "You're Swan Sanche, daughter of the river, clever as a pike, strong as the tides." And just, like, reinforcing all of those things about Swan that we see Moiraine mention later on in the episode here. And going
and
off
you see
of...
her and you see Swan, like, embody throughout the episode. Too.
Yeah, right. But, like, you see, like, some of the, like, fishing language thrown in there, the importance of, like, water lingo and everything. So that was a nice little callback to the books there that we got with some of that. But something we'll see later on here is when Swan is an adult, she's coming in hot, I don't think we see as much of, like, the gruffness and, like, the cursing that she's known for in the books there. She's much more regal, much more queenly, and she fits the role of, like, being, like, the Amyrlin, this high lady, basically.
That's exactly what I put down, that she was very formal and that she commanded respect.
Yes.
Because we cut into the scene here in the tower, the hall of the tower, where she comes in, Logain gets brought before her.
And then we have Lyanna being like, "She comes, the watcher of the seals, the flame of Tar Valon," but no, Tar Valon. The Amyrlin seat. So we have Lyanna doing her, like, little best impression of what we see happen in Faldara in the books, where she gets out of the carriage, like, bangs her staff, and kind of gives us introduction before Swan steps out into public here. But we're seeing this done in the Hall of the Tower here, and then she brings forward Logain to get some judgment going on there.
I like the scene. I thought Logain did a really brilliant job.
I love the Logain actor.
A brilliant attempt at manipulation to die, coming in with just that, like, acid. Just, I was like, he woke up choosing violence. This
yes,
morning.
He chose violence today.
And unfortunately, Swan never
reacted.
I was actually kind of disappointed that the other Aes Sedai too didn't keep it very.
Yeah, they did react.
To their chest.
That was something else I wanted to talk about here. It's like, we see Logain coming in and being like, "It took 9 of you to take out 1 of me. What do you think everyone's going to think about how weak you are now? And knowing that I killed 1 of you," and, like, trying to get them to kill him. Yeah. But, like, one of the things, like, Mike brought up here is Aes Sedai are known for that Aes Sedai calm. And we did not see Aes Sedai come in this episode. Like, we saw Aes Sedai, like, gasps, reactions, lots of Liandrin, like, chewing on her cheek and, like, looking like she had something nasty to say, and she definitely did. But we'll get to that in a minute. But Logain ends up begging for death, and Swan's like, nah, fam, you're living. So it's just perfect because, you know, Swan is from the Blue Aja, so, like, which, as we know, they're a bunch of little spies and everything, so Swan's like, yeah, I'm pretty good at reading what people actually want. I know you want me to react, so I'm not gonna do that. But it was good. I really like the actor they have playing Logain. Really like him a lot.
He's really good, and I look forward to hopefully seeing more of him later on.
Me too.
And then we get it. It goes into, Logain's carried out of the room there, and then the Amyrlin, Suan, is looking at Liandrin like, ooh, you done messed up, girl. You done messed up. And I liked Liandrin's response. She's going to get some kind of penance or some kind of punishment for her action. But it was really Liandrin's response to the Amyrlin that I want to talk about, because, you know, after Moiraine and after Alana stand up for Liandrin's decision to end Logain, or to
sever him from the source, yeah.
Yeah. Leandrin's immediately like, well, what about Moiraine, Mom? I'm going to go ahead and push all my guilt over here onto her. Look what she did. Let me slink off a little bit.
Yeah, like, you could just tell by the look on her face there. She's like, I want to say something so bad right now. Like, she's just, like, turning away, chewing on her tongue and cheek, and, like, she looked like she was pissed. But what I want to get at before we get into what Leandrin's response was how Alana, a green Aja Aes Sedai, defended a red Aja Aes Sedai for gentling a man with no trial out in the wild there. And then Moiraine, a blue Aja Aes Sedai, did as well. And why that's significant is because how that represents a shifting of alliances within the tower, how it shows just how much things are changing within the tower. And, like, we see later on with the other blue sister talking with Moiraine about this, and we'll get to that later too. But getting back to Liandrin tattletaling on Moiraine here. So, she's like...
showing her true colors.
Yeah, she's showing her true colors. She's showing that she is that snake in the grass that Nynaeve called her out for being. And so she's like, why are you mad at me when Moiraine, who's a blue spy, has been out in the world the last 2 years, didn't give any warning that this man was amassing his army, didn't give any warning that Trollocs were going to be coming down and attacking Emond's Field and the Two Rivers? Why did Moiraine fail in her duty to not report this to me, not report this to you, to not protect us as an Aes Sedai?
I thought this part was kind of weird because Blue in the books, the Blue Aja is all about their causes and going after it. In the show, they're kind of painting that a little bit, but they're really focusing on the ears and eyes networks and making them seem like a bunch of spies, and it's kind of weird, but...
I mean, the Blue Aja do have the largest eyes and ears network in the books. But every single Aja has their own eye and ears network.
Correct.
So I don't really think it's more of like an Aes Sedai trait, the spying and stuff, than a Blue Aja specific. But they are making it much more Blue Aja specific here in the show. But so Nynaeve was brought up again, being like, she brought this woman who is the most powerful Chandler we've seen in 1,000 years, and she wasn't even going to bring her to the tower. Like, she was trying to hide her from us, trying to hide her from me. And Nynaeve was brought up in that way because, again, Liandrin, she wants to manipulate the situation. She's like, Moiraine, as an Aes Sedai, has this duty to basically to bring her to the tower for training. But was she going to do that if I wasn't there forcing her hand? And so she's trying to get Swan to deflect some anger, again, on Moiraine here. And this part I had some thoughts on here. Moiraine says that she did not know Nynaeve could channel. And in the books, you have it clearly stated out that an Aes Sedai can, when they get close to a person, a woman especially, because they can't sense Sidene, they can only sense Sidar. But if Moiraine got close enough to Nynaeve, she would be able to tell she could channel, and she does that in the books. She knows Nynaeve can channel right from the get go in Emond's Field. However, here it's portrayed that she did not know she could do that. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Maybe it's more like fully channel. She might have thought she just blocked herself off, because she does talk about how, like, or in one of the previous episodes when she was talking with Egwene, she talked about how some people listening to the wind is like being connected to the source, but she doesn't really say like they're the same thing. Like being able to channel and listening to the wind are the same thing. I agree with what you say, and in the book it's very clear that if you can channel, like, women can sense that. At least the spark, right? Not the ability to learn.
Right, the spark.
The spark.
Which Nynaeve has.
Yeah, so it's kind of odd that she didn't notice it, but to also be fair, they didn't spend a whole lot of... Oh, they spent a whole month together. Never mind.
Yeah, they spent a whole month together. She should have known. But anyways...
Again, they're just doing this to make it... to add some more dramatic effect and to make her be a possible dragon.
Exactly. But anyway, so Liandrin, she calls out Swan for, not really having interest in learning more about what Moiraine was up to. She's like, well, are you not interested because you used to be Blue Aja yourself?
Oh, snap.
Which that is why Mike did that, is because you do not mention what Aja the Amyrlins came from. Because she's supposed to be of all Ajas and none, show impartiality, and so to basically imply that you're showing members of your old Aja favor, then, that is a big deal being an Amyrlin. So that forces...
She should have smacked Liandrin down, for that comment.
But we see in this episode that Swan does not smack anybody down, which... except for Moiraine in this scene right here, where she basically rounds on Moiraine. She is forced into this. She's rounding on Moiraine, calling her out, like, what's your purpose for traveling? And meanwhile, as a book reader, that Swan knows what Moraine's purpose is. And we find it out later in the show that Swan did know what her purpose was. But they're keeping it a secret. They can't let anyone else know, so they play it up. And then Swan basically calls out another no-no for Aes Sedai by saying, oh, Moiraine Damodred, do you feel like you are above us since you are nobly born? Because Moiraine is nobly born. She's from the royal family in Cairhien. And that's another no-no because you're mentioning the Aes Sedai's past life, basically. And once you become a full Aes Sedai, you are sealed to the tower. You're Aes Sedai. You're Moiraine Sedai. You're not Moiraine Damodred. You are now forever an Aes Sedai. So that was just Swan basically giving it back to Moiraine because she had to. So what were your thoughts on the rest of that scene there, Mike?
Yeah, I wish she had done a little bit more to, like, quiet Liandrin in that scene too. But I do think they're playing up the fact that she probably can't because Liandrin has gained so much favor in the hall, as they said last episode. Right. I thought it was really good because even during that episode, I was like, knowing their relationship, I was still like, oh wow, nice. They're really playing this up to prove that, like, there's this dual relationship, how they have to be in public versus in private.
Right. I was gonna say, I thought they did a really good job, like, making it seem like Swan and Moiraine were in fact enemies, as opposed to being allies and lovers, as we find out later. But I want to say as well, I thought that the tower actually looked like it had presence. It had people this episode. Yeah. So I was really happy to see that, since that was one of the complaints we had for the last episode. So then we have Moiraine going out and searching for Rand and Mat with Lan. And we see in the background Nynaeve and Loyal slinking off, out of focus in the background there. And Lan pops up and be like, found them. They're right here. So I wanted to bring this up to you because I was last episode we talked about how the inn that they went to should have been the Queen's blessing, but I was like, oh, maybe it's the Amerlin's blessing. The inn is called the Light's blessing. So I was like, great. And
Did
not just that, you go to the X-ray. Yes, it's Basil Gill. We totally called that out, and we were like, yeah.
I did say that it seemed like she knew.
Yes.
She did know that they had gotten into town, at least from her eyes and ears enough, because she was sitting there. And I like that scene because, like you said, like she's just sitting there. I feel like she knew where they were, and just having Lan double check and
make sure they didn't move. Cool. But yeah, like I legitimately, I was watching it on my couch, and I pause it, and I go through, and I see the name of the innkeeper's Basil Gill, and I just start fist pumping in the air, and I'm like, yeah. But we have Rand be an idiot and a woolhead and draw his sword on Moiraine and Lan. Like he's gonna do anything.
He did just see what happened to Logain. And
Rand did not see that.
Channel. Well, I know, but he saw the after effects.
Right, the parade. Yeah. But yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna defend you, and Lan... There's this great meme that I've seen where it's like, Rand brings out his sword, Lan brings out his finger. And it's like, no. And it's like, this is all I need to beat you. So we have... This right here is actually probably my favorite scene in the entire episode here for episode 6.
That was really cool.
Where we have Lan pinning Matt... so we're pinning Lan... Oh my god.
Rand.
Lan is pinning Rand down.
Lan on Rand.
Bed. Yeah, Lan on Rand. Pinning him down while Moiraine gets a slash from Matt, or at least Matt tries to slash her with a dagger. She quickly stops him with the air, bundles him up, and withdraws the corruption from his body there. And
seals it to the dagger.
Yeah, seals it back into the dagger. Scene. That scene was so cool. It really reminded me of like watching an exorcism happen, because like Matt was basically possessed. We had talked about that. So yeah. And so I thought that was a really cool scene.
Oh, when Rand was like pulled out his sword and they took him out, he's like, oh, he tries.
Yeah. He knew he was gonna get it, but I thought it was really funny how Matt was like, go ahead, the world doesn't need a dragon like me. Like, it's like, come on, Matt, you know you can't channel. Like, what are you doing there, man? But one thing I thought that was interesting is if you watch this scene, you see Rand following what appears to be Moraine's weaving. But later on in the episode, it does say, or Rand comes out and says, I could see the corruption, coming out of him, and I saw it like going on to you and everything. So he did not see Moraine's weaves, he saw the blackness of the evil of Shudder Logoth going along those weaves onto Moraine's face and then into the dagger. Which I thought it was cool, because it looked like it tried to get into Moiraine, but she had her mouth closed the entire time. So didn't feel like going up her nose or anything.
Venom symbiote.
Yeah. Again, probably my favorite scene here. But what I thought really was cool. Yeah, what I thought was interesting was that Lan just covers the dagger with a blanket, and then we never see the dagger again. In this episode, at least. I'm like,
and it makes me think some things at the very end of the episode.
Yes, which we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about all that bit at the end, but yeah, we'll get there. Now we skip over to the tower, right? To the bath scene.
Well, not yet, because we have some cool scenes here with Nynaeve and Moiraine and Rand. So first of all, Rand comes out and being like, hey, sorry, I messed up. I shouldn't have drawn my sword on you. Yeah, thanks for helping my friend. And I'm like, okay, thank you, Rand, for finally being civil towards Moiraine.
And not being a wool-headed sheep herder.
Yes. So Moiraine says that Matt is healed of his connection to the dagger, but that if he touches it again, it could last forever, or he could be lost forever. Which I thought was interesting, because in the books, we have Matt get healed a little bit by Moiraine while he is still attached to the dagger. But she states how she cannot fully separate that connection because of how deep and powerful that is. And it takes a whole bunch of Aes Sedai linking together to heal Matt of that connection to the dagger. So I don't know, like you said, if this is setting up for something for next season, or if this is potentially, going to be all we get to see of that connection with Mat and the dagger. But
I
either
don't
way,
think so. I think that'll come back.
I think so too. Either way, we have Nynaeve come in next, and Moiraine gives her the tongue lashing she finally deserves.
Yeah.
She's like, "You almost killed your friend.
How dare you not tell me?"
Yeah, if wisdom is a title you claim, I suggest you start using some. And I was like, that's such a great line. I love that line.
Burn.
Yes. But now we get to the bath scene. Line.
Yeah, and she had her basket of herbs thinking she could heal them all by herself.
Of course. Nynaeve is so proud of her, for the fact that she knows her herbs. And
herbs.
Yeah. But then we have the bath scene here, which actually has
steamy.
the first actual nudity in the show. And I thought
outside of Lan's booty.
Well, Lan's booty is fine. That's not, not full frontal nudity. So
well, this was
that
really
won't
just
get you the R
nudity.
rating. You saw some boobs. I'll call it what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
But, yeah. The rest of it was fine. But I thought it was a funny way to, that they actually have it going on here, because I did not think they would be including nudity in the show. I thought they'd go with, implied nudity, which is what they did with Moiraine and Mirren, or what's her name? Megan.
Megan.
Yeah.
Megan. Which was, her actress is Sandy McDade, and I thought she did a nice job of kind of being that head blue.
Yeah, I liked her. I thought she was kind of cool with her, Irish accent coming in, or whatever it was, but I was like, oh, I gotta make sure I really listen here to get here. But
this was an important scene.
Yes,
because
she has some
She
cool
really
stuff to
explained the
say.
state of the world.
Yeah. So she tells Moiraine how Swan's losing her grip, and Moraine's like, with sanity or with her power? And it's basically just referencing again how Liandrin is gaining power in the White Tower here. Then she says, there's ships disappearing off the west coast.
The Shan Chan.
Which, yeah, that's 100% what it is.
And then she's like, I'm gonna have to go explore it. I'm like, oh girl,
yeah, don't do that.
I think the next time we see you, you might have a collar.
Have some new bling, yes. She mentions how there's Aiel this side of the spine of the world, which we already knew actually from when we were in Breeze Spring there, and right. Matt and Tom were talking about the Aiel and everything. And then how Megan wants Moiraine in the tower permanently. And Moiraine on the inside is probably screaming right now.
Yeah, after Lan was like, we're home, and she was like,
she's like, this is a home now. My home. Yeah. Now, I want to ask you this, Mike. So, I might be wrong here, but in the books, isn't Megan the head of the Blue Aja?
I believe she is. I didn't get a chance to look that up before we recorded, but that name was very familiar, and I thought she was.
That's what I thought. I didn't check either, but I thought it was. I was like, oh, I got this fancy new Wheel of Time encyclopedia, basically. And I could have looked it up, but I just didn't. I will before the next episode, probably. But we then get the mention about how Moiraine doesn't really meet with other sisters in the tower. She meets in her own locations, separate locations from that. And again, it just shows the disconnect that Moiraine feels between the White Tower and the people there, and how she's much more comfortable on the road in the world doing her own thing. Moiraine finds Egwene and Perrin in her super busy day here, because all of this, finding Rand and Matt, going to the bathhouse with Megan, going and finding Egwene and Perrin, all happens in the span of a single day. Or at least it seems that way. And so Moiraine finds Perrin with the Yellow Sisters and tells Egwene that she has people watching for Rand and Matt, but has it on good authority that they're alive. Basically just twisting her words around, not coming out and saying, oh, I just saw them, but not wanting Egwene to go to them yet. So
that way, by keeping them separate, she kind of keeps control over
Exactly. So Egwene comes out and says, that Valdo won't hurt any more of your sisters. Moiraine goes and says, or gives her this look Moiraine gives Egwene this look, and kind of like an eyebrow raise, and Egwene kind of nods, insinuating that she killed Valda.
I don't think so.
I was going to say, I think she's mistaken, but
Yup.
she thinks she took care of him. But she's
Yeah,
happy to
Egwene,
get the...
okay.
Yeah. She's happy to get the rings back from Valda. All that's great. But then Egwene starts casually dropping how Perrin has yellow eyes now, and Moiraine freaks out.
Moiraine knows. I think Moiraine knows.
Moiraine does know, yes. And we get an interesting part here where Moiraine says that we don't know what shape the dragon will take or what power they'll wield.
Which is great because in the books, at a certain point, in one of the dreams that the Dark One appears in, he mentions how the Wolf Brother power is something that he had seen before and dealt with, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And I thought that was kind of nice. That I felt like it was a nod towards that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that it was an interesting little twist there.
Again, trying to keep it secret who the dragon is.
Yes. Then we go back to the tower where Moiraine is sitting there, straightening, combing out her hair in her PJs. Meanwhile, Lan is like, there you are. Oh yeah, she's getting ready. But Moiraine masked the bond with Lan while she was doing this to get ready for some private time with Swan. And I thought it was interesting because the way that it's described, if you read the trivia for this episode here, is that masking your bond is essentially letting it cease to exist for a temporary period here. So, like, it's almost like she released Lan of his bond here for this little excursion to go see Swan. And I thought that was interesting because, you know, I don't think that'd be something she would typically do. But, whatever. Lan mentions
the
how...
The last time was
2 years ago.
Which coincides
Hey, she was in the tower.
Yep.
So maybe it is something that Show Moiraine does frequently.
And then
Hold on.
Oh.
She did mention to Alana as well that she had heard of a way to, like, release the bond or whatever when they were talking about warders last episode. And so maybe this is partially that way where she's masking it instead of, you know, fully cutting it off. Not sure. But Lan mentions how there's enemies everywhere and that... it's Moiraine actually that mentions that there's enemies everywhere and that the priority for Lan is no longer protecting her. The priority for Lan is to protect the Emond's Field 5, which is a huge shift and something I don't think Lan would actually follow. What are your thoughts on that part?
I agree, but in the books it was the same way where she did put their safety over her own.
She did.
At some parts.
But I don't think Lan necessarily would.
Oh, well, no. Well, except for maybe one person.
Except for one person, yes. But then we get Pillow Friends reuniting here.
Yes, and this is that shout out to Matthew Scott here. You called it. Wasn't a flashback. It ended up being that painting was a ter'angreal. So that was really interesting how they did that. And for those who may not know, a ter'angreal is an item in this world where you channel flows into and it does something. We see two in this episode. The golden painting wall hanging and then the oath rod later on.
Right. And so the ter'angreal on her wall here turns out to be a gateway which she uses to go and meet Swan in an unspecified location. But I'd be willing to bet it's down in Tyr because it was storming and everything and just kind of reminded me of her childhood hut there. I did see some speculation that this was actually Tel Riyadh, which is the world of dreams, but when you go into the X-ray again for this scene, it specifically mentions that like this ter'angreal is used for traveling. So I think it's more of a different location than the world of dreams for this one. But
very interesting.
I did mention how I wrote down in my notes here that my code for this scene is Pillow Friends Reunite, because if you have read the books, especially New Spring, there's reference to Swan and Moiraine being what's referred to as pillow friends in the book when they were novices, which is essentially what I'm taking as, like coded for lovers when they were young novices alone in the tower, when there was no one else around there for them to show romantic interest in other than women. So maybe they explored that relationship then and there, but it's not so much carried over into their adult relationship that we see in the books, at least, but it does look like it's carried over that way here on screen. So what were your thoughts about this scene? Because there was a part of it that I really liked, and the part that I really liked was how when Moiraine and Swan are kissing, Moiraine kind of stops Swan and is like, on your knees. Because earlier on in the episode, Swan made Moiraine get down on her knees to bow before the Hall of the Tower. Yeah. And Moraine's like, I bowed for you in the hall, you're bowing to me in the bedroom. So I thought that was a great scene. I thought it was really funny.
It was funny, and it leads into a comment Moiraine makes later on in the show. But I liked Swan in this scene so much because this was like the dialogue Swan had. I was like, oh, this is like classic Swan Sanche, calling her a pufferfish, and the way she like at the beginning like was talking to her is very kind of heated a little bit and had a little edge to it, and I thought it was really great because you got what you had said earlier, some of those references to her upbringing, so that was nice.
Yeah, I really just wish that we got more cursing from Swan, that Swan was a little more rough around the edges, because I do like Swan so far in the show here, but she is way too polished, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that a bit. I'd agree. We've just had little glimpses of it.
Again, we have hardly any scenes with Swan. We've had hardly any scenes with Loyal. So, I'm really saving my final judgment for those two characters until we have more time with them. So, we'll see what the future brings. But this next part here is a part that I definitely want to dig into a little bit more than the surface level.
Yeah, you go ahead and lead this one. I know you wrote it all down word for word, so you can take the reins.
Yes. So, this part here, the part I want to talk about, is with Moiraine and Swan talking about the prophecies of the dragon. Moiraine says that how she found 5 potential dragons in the same village. 4 of the right age, but Nynaeve is too old. But how can they discount the power that Nynaeve has shown so far, being more powerful than anybody in the last 1,000 years? And how every town has a different legend about where the dragon will be reborn, how they will appear, the way they will break or save the world. And then that right there is what I want to pause on and talk about for a second. Because Swan's response to this, and this is where I start to write down the word for word responses. Swan says, our prophecies are clear. Moiraine counters, 3,000-year-old prophecies that have been translated again and again by hundreds of Aes Sedai. From a gleeman, I heard the tale of a many-headed dragon. Swan counters, the last dragon was one man. Why would the wheel split his soul into many? Moiraine comes back. What if Jatara's vision was wrong? Swan counters, you were there. Moraine's like, I know less now than I did then. So, why I want to highlight this section here of this particular scene is because of how much I hate it. So, first of all, I absolutely despise this scene because what this scene represents to me is this scene shows Moiraine being a conspiracy theorist, believing every piece of scrap of information she can get, and using what she's hearing out in the villages and hearing from people that really don't necessarily know anything and taking that as more of a fact than a foretelling, which the definition of a foretelling is to be able to tell the future and be accurate with it. So that's why foretellings are valuable, because of how they're always true. And so Swan references Jatara Morosa, who Mike and I have mentioned previously in this podcast here, is the woman who had the foretelling when the Dragon Reborn was born. And when she had this foretelling, there were only 3 other people present. There was the Amerlin seat at that time,
R.I.P.
yeah, who died shortly after, and there was Moiraine and Swan. And this was the dawn of their mission to find the Dragon Reborn, because they knew for a fact, because it was from a foretelling, that the dragon had been reborn. And so they've been searching for the Dragon Reborn ever since. And so for her to just throw out what she's dedicated the last 20 years of her life to is a little ridiculous to me. So the other thing that I want to take away from this scene here is that, to me, this seemed like the showrunners, the writers, justifying the changes they've made to the Dragon Reborn lore. And their explanation, which is pretty much what, word for word, Rafi Judkins said in his AMA on Reddit the other time that I talked about, when he said, oh, why would Moiraine trust what was written 3,000 years ago? That doesn't seem like her character at all. But...
And we've seen them do this a couple times with Loyal explaining why everyone was so, like, diverse. And in others, like, they've done it so many... They're done it, and they're probably going to continue doing it, like, dropping these little, like, dialogues where they're explaining why things are the way they are.
Right. And so... my big takeaway, again, from this scene is that I really don't like how... I really don't like it. I really don't like how Moiraine is basically discounting the superiority of the knowledge that's acquired through the White Tower versus the knowledge of villages and taking like a Gleeman's Tale of 5 dragons. Now, I do want to touch on that 5 dragon theory there for a second. Because... although this is not in the books, one thing that is in the books is the importance of the other Ta'veren to the dragon. Where you have the Dragon Reborn in the books, and it's kind of referred to almost as like a chair or a stool or whatever. Where there's the 3 lays, there's 3 Ta'veren in the books. So there's the 3 Ta'veren. If one of them were to fall, the entire thing would topple. The entire chair would fall over. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm wondering, if they're going to go with the multi-headed dragon scenario, where you have to have all of these people working together because they're all important for the pattern, even though they're not all technically the dragon. And I also don't like the idea of, I have 5 potential dragons. I'm like, there's only one.
Yeah, dragon. They're going to resolve that.
Yeah.
And they haven't even talked about Ta'veren again. I think we may, hopefully they'll have Loyal explain that next episode. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like they're really, really playing up the whole who is the Dragon Reborn thing this season. And I'm really interested to see where the show will go once it's established, because I have a sneaking suspicion I will like it so much more once we have that direction. Moving on, though. Moiraine
they say how important it is to keep it secret, because
that's what I was going to go to,
which is female gentling. And then I love the line at the end there where Siuan calls Moiraine a little pufferfish.
She's like, put your spikes away. I'll talk to you once you're not on the defensive.
Yeah. And then we get one of my favorite lines from the book as well. I'll kill them myself before I let them have him. And that was because they talked about how, and I know you have an issue with this, and I actually have an issue with this, that the eye of the world is where the Dark One's prison is, and we can go and we can end this now. And I was like, no, that's 2 different locations, but okay.
So yeah, in the books, the Dark One's prison is in a location called Shale Ghul. And
correct.
So the Eye of the World is more of like you find this place, it's like a legendary thing out in the Blight, and you get a special reward, basically.
Hopefully they explain this in the next episode too.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe when we get to Shinar or something like that, they'll mention it, or Foldara.
I'm hoping Loyal gives a lot of exposition next episode, because he likes to talk about things.
I mean, I'm thinking next episode we'll see the most of Loyal we've seen yet, and I'm hoping for the same thing, because I think he has the potential to be that knowledge dump on the viewers. But so Swan also mentions how, like, the going there to the Dark One's prison at the Eye of the World could be dangerous for those who are not the dragon, and how it's basically sacrificing them to the slaughter because no one that gets between the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn will be left living, or something like that. So I thought, again, whatever, kind of weak, but
I thought it was kind of dumb. It just feels like we're just trying to make like more make the stakes higher, basically.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So then we have the next scene is Moiraine traipsing down the hallway, and Liandrin is like, "Oh, where are you coming from? Seeing Matt Coffin from the Two Rivers." Yeah, for real though. And so, like, Liandrin's basically trying to say, "I know roughly what you're up to, Moiraine Sedai. I'm gonna call you out even more." And so Moiraine smacks down on Liandrin, and I loved it. She's like, "Don't make me tell the Amyrlin and everyone else about the man you've been meeting in North Harbor. I've seen you. What do you think your Red Sisters would do if they found out?" And Mike and I have some theories about this as well, and we're not going to say them quite yet. We'll save that for a different episode. But it was really good because, again, Moraine's just like giving the smackdown to Liandrin, and I'm always down to see that happen. Although Liandrin, I like her actress in the show. I think she's doing a great job, but I still don't like her. So it's okay.
Which is good. That means she's doing a good job. We talked about this before the show started, but we do think that at least at this time, they're not introducing Elida's character, and they've sort of meshed Elida's character and Liandrin's to make one antagonist in the tower. And
basically one challenger to Swan for the Amyrlin seat.
Which makes sense, because that helps the viewers just focus on this one person. But Elida is so important to the series that I really hope they bring her in.
Because Liandrin and Elida do have two very different paths in the future. So
and now they go they can mesh well together, but later on they do fork off in different directions. So
hoping we see her in season 2. We'll see though. But Moiraine goes off and meets Loyal, who Lan says he likes to talk. Just be ready about that. Moraine's like, I got this. I can handle that. So she comes right out. Glory to the Builders, which is one of the Shienaran greetings for the Ogier, and a lot of people highly respect Ogier because they are like superior craftsmen for a lot of things, particularly stonework. Although the Ogier aren't really proud of their stonework that much, they mostly care about their gardens. But men and mortals love the stonework. Anyways, Moiraine enlists Loyal to help her out with a secret task that we don't know, but we really do by the end of this, basically. Like, oh, come to the ways with me. Let's.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
I know.
Yeah, I want to talk about the ways when we get to there, because if that's what this is involved. Because it's big feelings. Big feelings. So Egwene and Nynaeve have their reintroduction to each other, loving on each other, being like, "Oh my god, I thought you were dead." And so it was nice to see just that reunion happen. And Nynaeve's coming out being brash already, being like, "Oh, the Amyrlin can wait." And Moraine's like, "Swan Sanche waits for one woman, and it's not you.
It's me."
Bow chicka wow.
Yeah, I love that line and how it was delivered. I was like, "Yeah, Moiraine, you know who owns those cheeks."
But so Nynaeve and Egwene go in and get introduced to Swan, and Swan comes out, and I absolutely loved this particular part of the scene. She's like, "You're the most powerful channeler I've ever seen in the last 1,000 years." And Egwene's like, "Oh, thank you, Mom." And then Swan's like, "Nynaeve Almera."
Yes, Egwene did such a good job. Her actress did such a good job, because I wrote that down too. I was like, Egwene's so proud, and then all of a sudden it's just like, what the heck? She's talking about you? Wait, when could you channel? Like,
I love that scene.
Yes, that was so good. And the interaction between Nynaeve and Swan was really good too. Nynaeve just being all her Nynaeve self,
Yes.
I don't have to listen to you. I'm gonna do my I don't need to be respectful to you. You don't command respect from me. And Swan's just like, listen here, little daughter.
The thing is, though, is that she never did that. She never called down Nynaeve, and I really wish she would have.
Not in the sense of daughter, because she's not an accepted. She is, her own woman, but proving that her decisions were silly and her reasons for doing those things were silly. Okay, you don't want to do this? Well, then guess what? You're going to soak the world in darkness and kill everyone you ever loved. So you can either listen to us and do the right thing, or you can go your own way and get everyone killed.
And so, again, really quick here, we don't see what the Amyrlin's response is to Egwene, because Egwene's like, what would you have us do? And so we don't see what the Amyrlin says to her. I think also it's important to know that they brought forward Nynaeve and Egwene because those are who I think Moiraine most suspects is going to be the dragon. And so she's like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to the Amyrlin, get a little dragon and Amyrlin rub-on going here. And it just, I thought it was, I really wish that Nynaeve got called down, though, because this is the Amyrlin we were talking about here. A woman who calls down queens, who calls down kings, who, if she sends a letter telling the commander of the White Cloaks she wants to talk, he's there pronto. It's not somebody who's going to take crap from a village wisdom, let alone someone who is Nynaeve's age.
But if they think it's the dragon...
Yes. She doesn't want to unleash the dragon. Anyways, I thought, though, that the conversation that Swan had with them, when she's like, the wheel doesn't care what you want. The wheel doesn't... You're not free to love who you want to love. You can't do all this. I thought it was a great opportunity to say the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. And we didn't get that...
Got that later
yet. On. We get it later on, but... I thought it was a great opportunity I was waiting for it, and I didn't get it.
I liked the room, though.
Oh, yeah.
Swan's office.
Good. Very plain.
The desk, I was looking for that black... I forget what
secret box?
Yes. It was there. That was pretty cool. And I wrote down, Logain woke up, choosing murder. He chose violence that day. And Nynaeve woke up choosing violence as well. So,
She did.
I was a little surprised that the Amyrlin wasn't quite as hard, but at the same time, I just thought, she's trying to be amicable. She's
as
trying to get her
to
see her.
Be, yeah.
Yeah. And it made me think of the scene in the books, which is later on in the series when Nynaeve and Egwene are going to the tower for the first time, and Swan's training them. And
yeah,
at first, Swan is very much like this, and then after a little bit, then she, puts her in her place. But
yes, then she's a hard ass.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're gonna get that scene still.
You think so?
I hope so, at least, because
I would hope so too.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Trainings along the way. Anyways, let's go back to the book here.
So next we get Moiraine and Lan. Moiraine's standing out on the side of on the tower, overlooking Valon. And this scene was really cool because to me it was just Moiraine saying goodbye.
Yes.
And the emotion on her face, even though this isn't her home anymore, quote unquote, it's still someplace she has a lot of connection to, and you got that in this scene.
Yeah, still important to her, even though it's no longer her home, for sure.
And then we go to the hall, and she has to kiss the ring.
She has to kiss the ring, and something we did not talk about with the whole Moiraine and Swan scene earlier on is we never mentioned how Moiraine told Swan, you need to exile me. This needs to be my punishment. Because if you don't exile me, then I'm going to be forced to stay here in the tower because that's what the head of the Blue Aja wants. And I can't do that. I need to get to the Eye of the World. And so this is how she's going to be able to leave the tower again with everybody. And so, she tells Lan, no, don't come with me to my punishment here. Go and get everybody out now. So that way we can just go on the road as soon as we're done here.
Yeah. And then we get the punishment called down in the tower. And I thought this was a little odd.
Me too.
That they
Me
used
too.
the oath rod for this, because in the books, the oath rod was only used for the 3 oaths that the Aes Sedai took, that we've talked about: not to lie, not to commit violence, or create weapons for violence, unless in defense of the warder, or herself, or her sisters. So it was very odd that they were making her swear this oath on this, but I think they did it, one, to explain the oath rod to the viewer, and to, again, get that Aes Sedai answer in there, which I actually kind of liked, but I thought was a little weird that no one else heard it.
Well, so yes, this is what I wanted to talk about, because, first of all, I agree with you 100%. The reason they involved the Oath Rod was to get that for the viewers, so that people could actually see the Oath Rod being used. I personally think they should have just done a flashback to show the Oath Rod being used, or wait to do it until other people swear on the Oath Rod, because in the books, there is a scene later in the book series where the Oath Rod is being used to bind oaths to Aes Sedai that are beyond the 3 traditional oaths. And
it's like a whole big...
It's a whole big thing where people are
happen.
furious about this because it's breaking Tower law. Mm-hmm. So again, like, this is not okay that Swan is doing this. But, again, I think it was done to try to show the viewers, here's the Oath Rod, here's what it does. So the oath gets put on you, you cannot break it. So I wrote down, again, word for word, the exact verbiage, because, like Mike said, the wording is highly important, especially for an oath on the Oath Rod, where you cannot break it.
Correct.
So Swan, well, yes, so unless you're released from it, which there's certain ways to do that.
Yeah.
So Swan says one thing, Moiraine swears another, first of all. Mm-hmm. I did not write down exactly what Swan said, but Moiraine says, "By the light in the hope of my salvation and rebirth, I, Moiraine Sedai, do swear to honor and obey Swan Sanche, daughter of the river, clever as a pike, strong as the tides, and never return until she calls me home, or my creator's face turn from me, and darkness consumes my soul." So my first thought upon hearing that oath was, what gives? Why is no one else in the tower hearing what Moiraine is saying? Why are they okay with her basically buttering up Swan and them having that intimate moment? Do they not hear what's happening? It betrays their entire friendship completely.
Yeah, and her voice was lower during that part, and then rose to the whole, and the creators.
Yeah, the creator's face turned from me, and darkness consumed my soul.
Yeah, we could turn that into a song. I think it's definitely done intentionally to, like, so all the people around, like, oh, okay, she swore on her, like, hope of the hope of salvation and rebirth, basically, and she did, but not to the thing they thought that she was swearing to.
Right, which again, the Aes Sedai, if this was going to be a huge break in protocol, they would be listening to what was being sworn. So, again, I don't like the scene.
It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Wasn't done as well as I would have liked it. I did like, though, that they all turned around as she was walking out, and even Alana, like,
full of emotion.
I like Alana a lot, and I hope we definitely see a lot of her in the series, because she was an important Aes Sedai in the books, and she wasn't really featured too much in the books. You know what I mean? She was
important, but underutilized. So then everybody turns around, looks away from Moiraine, and I thought this was interesting. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to... So I did look up about Megan.
Okay.
And we were both wrong.
Oh,
she
lovely.
is important, but later on in the books to the next Amyrlin that we both know right now in the series. I don't want to spoil anything to the listener, but she was part of the next Amyrlin's seat in council. So maybe they're just name dropping her to name drop her, but her saying she's going to explore the stuff out west makes me think that she ain't never coming back. Or next time we see her, maybe in a different situation. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm fine. Being wrong, it's fine.
Oh, I am too. I don't mind.
Yeah, no, I think there's so many names in the series that whatever. We didn't vet it. I should have.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to, bring in as many characters as people may recognize as possible, too.
Yes. But anyways, what I was going to say is I thought it was interesting that Swan tells Moiraine, turn around and face your sisters, right? And so she turns around, looks at them all, and then with no fanfare at all, they all start turning around away from her. So
She's dead to them.
Yeah, so she's dead to them. But by exiling her, is she exiling them or Moiraine from the Aes Sedai? Or is she exiling Moiraine from Tar Valon or just the White Tower? 'Cause she only says
the tower and the sisters are like one and the same. A lot of times they refer to them as, So I think you hit something there, but it's just both of them combined.
Okay. So that is an interesting thing if Moiraine is no longer considered Aes Sedai.
Which would be weird because then you wouldn't have any other interactions with the Aes Sedai going forward? Don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing I did look up as well is I looked up if Moiraine ever goes back to Tar Valon. Like, if Moiraine actually ever goes to Tar Valon, and she never does in the entire book series.
Correct,
so,
she never.
I don't think her being banished or exiled from Tar Valon is a big deal. No. But if she is indeed exiled from the Aes Sedai, then that would be a little bit strange.
That would be very strange.
Yes. But so we have everybody meet back up at the Waygate.
Such a great reunion. This made me smile. I was like, yes, the Emmons Field 5 are back together. It was so cute. And
everybody's happy to see each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, though. So check this out. So everyone was happy to see each other, hugging and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And then Perrin pokes fun at Mat for stealing an evil dagger. But this is the first time he's seen him. How would he know this story? Because Moiraine specifically says there'll be plenty of time during our travels to share all of your stories with each other. So Perrin, already knows Mat's story?
That was kind of weird timing with that. I agree. I thought so too. I liked Mat's response, and I thought Mat was great. I was like, oh, he's got his humor back already. And we'll get on to my other thoughts on that, but
next,
I just think the Waygate looks cool. We know we're going into the ways. Wasn't really explained too well, because again, I think they're going to save that for next episode a little bit more.
So Loyal explains the ways as basically, where is it here?
Pathways.
As ancient pathways out of time and space. Which that's not a very big explanation.
No, but they don't explain the dangers and such.
No, they don't. And so let's just dive into why, again, I hate this scene. Because
it's weird that they send the horses back.
Yeah, so they send the horses away. So horses travel the ways all the time in the books. Not a big deal. Dumb change.
Because how else do you carry food and everything else you need?
Yeah, right now you have your pack horses. You have your supplies for your travels. Are you just going to go,
I didn't see anyone with a backpack.
On your back? No backpacks, no bags. Just little belt pouches. So that's a dumb decision, first of all. Second of all, requiring the one power to open up the Waygate is a huge freaking deal.
I know, the symbol that was kind of showing when she was doing her weaves.
It was a trifoil leaf. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I get that nod to the show, but why even have Loyal there?
Right. What's the deal? Why have Loyal here if you don't need him to open the gate for you?
Yeah, that was, in the books. He knew how to open the gates, and I'm sure they're going to have him lead him on the way because he's the only one who can.
He'll read the signage inside the ways, which is probably why Moiraine needed him for the show here. But
it was just, I was like, just have him open the gate, because otherwise, basically, you're saying that the only way anyone can ever travel the gates is through the use of the one power, which
not just the one power, Mike. Sidar. Not just the one power, just Sidar. Which brings together an entire other thing of issues, because the two halves of the power are different. You're not going to have Sidene being able to do the same thing as Sidar.
Only Sidar could open it?
No, but Moiraine wields Sidar, so she can't wield Sidene. So I'm thinking the implications are even bigger.
But I'm sure Sidene could open it too.
Maybe, I don't know. But either
And
way,
maybe
it's a huge deal.
Maybe that's only one way to open the gate, but I have a big issue with it because, and this is, I'm going to tell everyone right now, this is a spoiler. We'll probably find this out in the next episode, but if you don't want to hear, you've been warned.
Skip ahead like 60 seconds.
Yeah, skip ahead like a minute. Okay, so this is my big issue here, is that in the books, we know, next episode, and we should figure this out, that the Trollocs have been traveling through the ways. So how the heck are they opening it up if they don't have... I mean, we know there's dark Black Aja and stuff. So is that how they're going to introduce the Black Aja? Is they're going to be like, oh, they've been traveling the ways. Who would have opened the waygate for them? Must have been an Aes Sedai. Oh, no. Like, you're just creating more problems than you needed to if you just had Loyal frickin' open the door and like, boom, anyone could open the door, which is true, and you should make it happen that way because anyone could have used these pathways when they were good.
So, okay, now that's the end of our spoiler thing there for the ways there. But again, yes, it was a waste for so many future things that could happen, especially like when we talk, oh my god, man, so many implications I'm thinking of here.
Exactly, yeah.
It's if you cannot open the ways without using the one power, this is going to be, like, for real big, like, huge changing to the story here. Anyways, not a big fan of this. We get that. So here is where it's revealed that the Dark One's prison's at the Eye of the World. Not a fan of that either.
Nah.
But we'll see. Maybe Moiraine doesn't actually know anything because, as we found out, she doesn't trust 3,000-year-old prophecies, so she doesn't trust anything. She knows less now than she did when she was a novice, so apparently... Yeah. But this is also where we're getting our farewell to Mat in perhaps the worst possible way they could have done it.
Why? I want to know why they decided to leave Mat behind. Are they trying to create a separate storyline where he goes after the dagger?
Here's why. Because the actor for Mat, Barney Harris, left the series. And so... what they did is they decided, fine, you're leaving the series, we're going to just cut you out here and make it as a nice transition. So the next time we see Mat, it'll be Donald Finn, be the new actor. And I just think there could have been so many better ways to do this. Like, if they would have left Mat in Tar Valon because he needed to recover longer from the healing of the dagger possession,
then made much more sense.
Yes, but this way here, it's a waste. It's a waste because now we had maybe 3 episodes where I liked Mat, and then the rest of them have been crappy episodes with Mat. And so we get 3 more with him being a bad character. And now we don't have him for the last 2 of this season. So no one's really going to like Mat. No one's going to give a crap about him not being with them anymore. So, man.
You bringing that up brings a lot of implications, though, for next season. I think maybe we'll see that he's gone back and maybe found Tom, and maybe that's how we get Tom brought back in later on. So it could have some interesting implications with that, and you make a lot of sense by saying they're changing out the actor, but they could have done it better by he just needs to rest. That would have been such an easy way to, okay, he's kind of written off, he's resting, and then all of a sudden you have, like, even maybe put him into, like, a coma. Like, he's just asleep. And, like, he's been moved to the Yellow Aja wing, and all of a sudden next season... like you start off and he just wakes up. Boom,
exactly.
Right there.
Exactly.
And it's Donald Finn. And it's like, it's had different changes on him. Like, and we would have been like, okay, we get it. We know. But at the same time, it would have been a good transition.
Right. So what we're saying right now is that Mike and I, and probably along with all of you, are better writers than what they have for this show right now. So
in some sense,
give them some joking,
credit. They've done some good stuff. But this just him staring at him with no explanation and nothing, and if we don't see him again for the next few episodes, like,
you're gonna forget about him.
It just makes me mad. Like, why?
Yes.
Because right now, all you've done is you've created a conflict between Mat and the other characters, which shouldn't exist at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems stupid, but what do we know? We're not paid anything.
But we do get Moiraine saying the wheel weaves as the wheel wills here, which was nice to hear that said in here. And we get our first peek into the ways. So I just want your thoughts on what we saw so far of the ways, like the quick glimpse that we have, because we're going to spend the next episode fully in the ways. So
I mean, it was just a quick glimpse. Honestly, I got, and people may hate me for saying this, like Mines and Moria vibes.
You're not wrong.
And I'd be very disappointed if a certain Gollum character didn't follow them.
I would agree with you 100%, but knowing the changes to the ways, how could said character do this?
Well, unless a certain snake in the grass helps them out.
That's very true. Okay, so now we've talked about all of this episode. So just conclusions, thoughts on this episode here. Personally, this is my least favorite episode of the season so far, and the reason it is so is because of the far-reaching implications some of these changes have made.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of that. I did really like the scene with Matt getting the corruption healed from him. That was my favorite scene of this episode.
It was really cool.
And I think all in all, again, the show is not a perfect representation of what I wish it was. But it's still very entertaining to me. I still am enjoying the show all in all for what it is.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say it's my least favorite episode yet. I definitely think because of the lack of action, it's definitely down there at the bottom, and really lack of any new information. I know that sounds weird, but really it was just sort of making things a little clearer for us as viewers, but we kind of knew. And I don't like what they did with Matt at the end there, like we just talked about, and the opening of the portal, was not a fan of that. So yeah, I'd agree. Definitely some things here that I didn't like or didn't enjoy.
So the reason why that I said last episode that episode 6 is rumored to be the best episode of the season is because, again, going back to the interviews with Rafi Judkins, the showrunner for the show here, has stated that his personal favorite episode of the first season was episode 6, which just means that Rafi likes to watch the world burn, in my opinion. That is why I thought it was going to be good.
He liked some of the interactions, and he might have liked some of the filming of some of those scenes, like with Moiraine and stuff.
Right, it's always a possibility. All right, so jumping into predictions for next episode. Mike, what is the title of the next episode? It's called Into the Ways.
Into the Ways. I should have said that. Maybe I'll just do the Into the Unknown next episode, except I'll be like Into the Ways.
There you go. Yeah.
So obviously we're going to be in the Ways. I think we're definitely going to have a lot of Loyal explaining things, which will be good. Hopefully we get explanations for the Taviran. Hopefully we get explanations for the Waygate and how things were, and how an explanation on the Ogier. I think that's long overdue.
Yeah, right? For real.
Hopefully we'll see Nynaeve and Egwene practice channeling. We get maybe an explanation on Perrin. Honestly, I'm just looking for next episode a lot of explanations, intermingled with a lot of action chasing when we get introduced to the Black Wind. So that's kind of my theory, and at the end we end up getting out, and then we'll get our view of Faldara. What are your thoughts, Dylan?
So this was episode 6. There's only 2 episodes left in this first season, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get a full episode in the Ways.
Oh.
I think that we're going to be into the Ways for a bunch of this episode, but we'll get to Faldara.
Yeah.
I think next episode as well, we'll get our first introduction to Min. And I think that we'll have maybe Rand start some sword training with Lan, maybe? I think that could be cool.
This episode, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking of like filler information stuff, basically.
Yeah.
And so I think the ending of this next episode is going to be the group getting ready to go to the Eye of the World, finally.
That's a good point.
I think this next episode will be more of an information dump. We'll see some more characters that we've been wanting to see. And just hopefully, it will be better than what we just got here.
I agree. We'll definitely have a little bit more action, at least, and yeah, they got to do it. I'm really excited to see how they do the Black Wind.
Me too. So we had mentioned this before the season even started. There is an evil entity within the Ways called Mashin, and it's otherwise known as the Black Wind. And so this thing eats your soul. So
yeah.
we're hoping. I'm really interested to see how it's portrayed. I think it's probably gonna look a little bit like Mashadar from Shadow Logoth, maybe.
I feel like so too, except maybe like I don't know. It makes when I pictured, I think about Spirit Away, and in that animated, great movie by the way, animated movie is this like kind of this ghost with a white face mask on, and it just starts consuming everything and starts chasing this girl, and it's like just oozing and like taking over things, and like as it's chasing her. That's kind of what I always picture with Mashinjin. So I'm hoping for something similar to that. And Dylan, I'll have to show you a clip of that.
I've actually seen Spirited Away.
Oh yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. Great analogy, right?
It's a good one. I like it. I think it's funny. I hope we don't get the face mask, but
oh no. Obviously
it'll be
not
good.
That, but whoa, we should get faces.
Well, that'd be cool. Like if we got like foggy spirit faces of everyone that it's consumed, kind of like bulging out and going back in. Yeah, it'd be funky.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah.
All right. So that's all we got for you guys for this week here.
Feel free to share
all we got.
your
We got you for an
theories.
hour and 20 minutes. Yeah.
I know.
All right, so yeah, feel free. Hit us up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, at WOT Rewind. Email is wheeloftimerewind@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts and theories. We're looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season's got for us. I know we were a little bit negative towards the show on this part here, but we're still enjoying it. You know, as fans, we have a right to complain. Why wouldn't we complain? So
it's always good to have criticism.
Exactly. It shows you care about something.
Correct.
All right. So with that being said, we'll see you all at the next turning of the wheel. Goodbye.
Pour one out for Matt. Bye. Wheel of Time Rewind blooper. Please enjoy. This was from this episode's recording, and it's just a little rough, but we thought it was kind of funny, so we'll share it. And I like this scene because Moiraine standing there on this, looking over Tarvalon. Gosh,
oh no, you're calling it everything.
I'm gonna delete this part. All right.
I know.
We get Moiraine looking out over Tarvalon.
Okay, take 3.
We get Nynaeve looking out over... Oh, Blood and Ashes. You just say it.
Okay. Hold on.
You get Moiraine looking out over Tarvalon.
Okay, I got it. I got this. So then we get... Hold on. Oh, my God. You should clip this part and just, get a separate audio version of this so we could, post a blooper thing.
At the very end. I'm going to post it after the end of the credits, I think. Okay.